Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Now, I need to apologise in advance. I've still got a bit of a cold, so I might be doing a bit of sniffing and coughing. Some people seem to find that annoying. Well, just don't watch. I am ill, can't be helped. What you see is what you get. This is not a professional platform. This is a YouTube platform. It's me communicating to my chatters what I think they'll be interested in, and also things that I think are important that people should know. If it doesn't suit you, you don't have to watch it. But anyway, thank you to those who do watch it. I want to thank all my, let me put my banner up. Thanks for watching, for liking, subscribing, being members, especially. What day are we on now? It's Wednesday, so tomorrow is members only live. Thank you so much for being members. Thank you so much to everyone who sends me a Ko-fi, a super sticker, who sends me emails with information about cases that might be interested in, situations that might be going on, leaves positive messages. Oh gosh, the things that I get on email, the lovely positive things. Thank you so much for all that. And thank you, of course, for caring about John George and his family. John George has been found, unfortunately deceased, but I think the family knew that from the word go. When John disappeared, they knew that unfortunately they were looking for a body, they knew they would not find their loved one alive, but at least they found him, and they're going to take him home, and they can be with him. They can put him somewhere to rest in a dignified way, somewhere where they can go visit, where they can talk to him. I know that will be so important. It would be so important to any family, isn't it? You know, this is to just leave somebody out somewhere. You know, what sort of person does that? That person who did that, they're in peril of their own mortal soul. And it doesn't matter whether they admit to it, they don't admit to it, they get justice in this world, but they get justice sooner or later. They're never going to evade it. So that's what we're going to just talk about today is John's family, or John's dad anyway, has come out and made some comments about his son. My intention at the moment is always to humanize John, because there are still some weirdos on my channel even coming on making comments about John as if he sort of deserved what he got, or, you know, it's so cold you know, to someone like John, who is loved by so many people. Whatever, maybe he did go a little bit the wrong way in his life, maybe he was a bit of the black sheep of the family, but he was loved. You could see that. Maybe he did make wrong decisions. And, you know, honestly, people who just think, oh, that's an easy thing. Oh, I just don't have to make those decisions. Just don't have to go that way. They don't know John's story. In this video, you're going to find out a little bit more about John on a human level, not only from his people who knew him, but also we're going to look at a video that I was sent by one of my students, actually, which is, you know, a podcast talking about John and people who know a bit more about John's history. You know, no, he wasn't perfect. His family said that he wasn't perfect. Is everybody in your family perfect? Would it matter if they got shot and left in a lemon grove in Spain just because they're not perfect? You know, he wasn't a serial killer. He wasn't a killer. He wasn't involved with guns and things like that. You know, so he didn't deserve it, as some people are saying. Of course he didn't. And certainly his family did not deserve to go through what they've gone through. So that's my intention really in this video, to keep you up to date, to let you know what John's father has said. Be prepared to cry. I've been crying all morning watching the videos and reading the posts that he's put up. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Sorry, but it is. Anyway, so I hope you'll all light a candle for John and send prayers for his family. I've got candles going all over the place this morning. I've lit so many candles. you know, it's just this sort of overwhelming sense of relief for John's family that they're not out there searching for him again. But it's like the worst case scenario, you know, having to take his body back. So I just want to say, first of all, as well, if you want to contribute to the GoFundMe, because of course now they've got repatriation costs to face. They know they've got a funeral. They'll want to give him the best send off possible as anybody would want to. So if you do want to contribute, in the pinned comment in the comments in this video is the GoFundMe, and I'll just share it with you. But yeah, get your tissues out, because very emotional what Billy's had to say. So this is the GoFundMe. It's £26,135 has been raised so far. I know they've received other money as well, because there was a period of time where it was fiestas here and they couldn't get, you know, the banks weren't open, etc. And I think money was put directly into people, into his family's accounts and things. So, you know, the community has really got behind this family, the Belfast community, and not only the Belfast community, probably people in Spain as well. People who don't even know him or the family have all sort of helped and got behind this and felt this family's pain. And I think that's what these cases always bring out, like the best in people as well as the worst. You get all the people making horrible comments, etc. But they're such a small minority, they're not even bothered, they're not even worth acknowledging their comments, really. But then you get, you know, the overwhelming majority of people are kind, you know, they are, and they've got behind this family, and that's lovely. So I just wanted to show. So if you do want to contribute, I think it's £5 is the minimum. Every little helps, doesn't it, to get John home and for his funeral. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to show you. Now, something else I want to show you before I start with the things about John is something that I've seen on the local Facebook sites, which I'm finding really concerning, and let me know what you think. But this, I don't know if you've got this kind of thing in the UK or in Ireland or Australia or America or wherever you're watching from. But this Your Local News thing is set up. And it just seems to have popped up over the last week or so. And, you know, it had information about John, which is fine, you know, obviously. But then it's buy your own news platform in the Costa Blanca. Now, first of all, whoever's put this post up, they can't spell recovered. Your Local News, John George body recovered. Run your own news platform in the Costa, it goes on to say Costa Blanca. What is this? It's some sort of news franchise. So basically what they're doing is saying to you, so it looks official because it's Your Local News. But when you look into it, it's like a franchise that someone's bought to give news in the Costa Blanca. But who's verifying this news? You know, it's not YouTube. You know, at the end of the day, YouTube. I'm a YouTuber. I get most of my news from mainstream media, because mainstream media, for all their faults, they do have to verify things. They can be held accountable for the news that they spread, etc. Does have to be verified. But who's verifying this for Your Local News? Because I started reading some of it yesterday, and it was going into the reasons why John had been shot, etc., according to them, of course. And I was thinking, how have they got all this information? Because knowing the Guardia Civil, as I know the Guardia Civil, they won't have got that information from the Guardia Civil, because they don't get, and you'll see that in this video we're about to watch, an Irish journalist that was over there. She's saying exactly how secretive the Guardia are. I found it really interesting, because it's interesting to hear somebody else say what I've been saying for ages. You have to, so when I was reading, I'm not going to show the news article that was on here, because it's a load of rubbish as far as I can see. Or where is its verification? You know, they say, oh, the reason that he was shot was this, and it was a drugs haul that went wrong, and it was this, and it was that, and it was the black. Now, it might be correct, but I just suddenly, as I was sort of reading through it, I was thinking, well, where's this information coming from? Because the only people that would know all these details surely would be the Guardia Civil, and they ain't going to tell anybody. So I just wanted to put a warning out there, because as I said, I don't know if it's just on the Costa Blanca. That's where I've seen it, on the Costa Blanca. You know, you can see they've made a lot of posts about John George. They're posting about the weather. But then it's saying run your own. When you go into the details, it's like a franchise you can buy to call yourself. Well, why would you do that? You just put your own posts on, wouldn't you? Your YouTube channel or your Facebook page or your Instagram or Twitter, or, you know, whatever you use. Why would you need to do it through this? Well, maybe because it looks a little bit more official. So I just wanted to warn people about that. If they see it, don't believe everything that you see, because even when it looks a little bit official like that, well, a big clue is that they haven't spelt recovered right. But, you know, people read things online, don't they? And they think, see, I don't even know if that's a genuine picture. So they've put this picture here as if this is where John was found. But I don't know that that's where John was found. So do you see what I'm saying? I'm just saying, be careful. You know, I don't like things like that, because I don't think that's a genuine news channel at all. If anyone could just buy a franchise and call themselves Your Local News, and then people will read those things and think they're true, and they could say anything, couldn't they? So yeah, I don't like that. Just to let you know about that, I just wanted to point that out because it came up as I was researching, you know, obviously for John. Okay, let's go back, and I'm just going to say hello to everyone. Hi, Admit. Hi, David. Yeah, Justice next. Yeah. Hi, Bertan. Yeah, there was a big kerfuffle about that. The thing is, I think also the Belfast newspapers released it. So the thing is, once it's in the public domain like that, once you see people see it on different media, well, you know, down the rapids, he's just an absolute twonk, isn't he? I mean, we know that, but unfortunately, lots of people don't know that. A lot of people still think he's a respectable person. Paul Arnott is a horrible person. You know, he copyright struck me for using 1 minute 56 of his material, you know, talking about Jay Slater, and again, a missing person, and he copyright struck you. Copyright struck me for it and wouldn't acknowledge any email that I sent him or anything. That's the sort of person that Paul Arnott is. And he's just such a sham, such a fraud. But we know it, but he doesn't know it. Sorry, a lot of other people don't know it. Hi, Yvonne. I wondered what Billy was going on about, because Billy was posting yesterday. Because at first he was saying, I'm telling everybody, don't say anything, or don't post. That was earlier on. And then anyway, in the end, the mainstream media took up the story, and then it became public. You know, that unfortunately is the bad thing, isn't it, about just the internet age. So there's good things, because the good things about the internet age is it meant that the family could get their message out, could get support behind them. But then it's hard to stop that, isn't it? That's the problem. It's like in the Nicola Bulley case, the Jace, any other case, once the family appeals for help and people get behind it, it's like a snowball. And then when it comes to the point that maybe the body's found and they want it to stop, it's very difficult then to stop it, because people are, it's already rolling down the hill. So it's practically impossible then to put the brakes on and say nothing, because people have then, by then they've invested in the case, normally for good reasons. They want a good result for the family. This with John, I think everyone was behind that family, weren't they? The prayers on their Facebook page, and the donations and people offering to help, and then you know, like I translated their poster into Spanish, other people did it into French, or everybody was trying to help. So that's the snowball, and it takes a little while, doesn't it, to get going. And then suddenly John's found, and then they want to put a break on it for good reason. I'm not saying they shouldn't, because they want to have time to assimilate what the findings are. But it's so difficult then to actually, you know, once that snowball's been put in motion, it's very difficult to stop it. But of course, you know, you should not put anything out unless it's in the public domain, or unless the family have spoken about it, of course. Oh, you're waiting for Yvonne. You're waiting for candles. Hi, Heather. Hi, King. So, yeah, thanks for your photo this morning, Heather. I'm definitely going to put together a video of all your what's it? Your different sort of nature photographs that you send me from your Longleat garden. But he is a snake. He is a snake down the rapids. But, you know, to be fair, I think actually in the beginning, the family did contact him and ask him. Well, I think they did. He said they did. The trouble is, I don't believe a word he says. He made his video and he said, oh, the family have reached out to me and blah. Well, maybe they did. Maybe the family did reach out to him, because he has got a big following. That's the problem. He's got a big following. So I suppose if you wanted to get your message out to as many people as possible, you're going to go to like the person with the biggest following on TikTok or whatever, isn't it? So I don't know how much money he makes out of things, because his YouTube channel is nothing, you know, he hasn't got a massive YouTube channel. But I know he does these TikTok lives, doesn't he? Maybe I don't really know how you make money on TikTok. I don't, you know, I've got a TikTok account and it's grown, but you know, it's still less than 200 followers. But, you know, so I don't know how TikTok works, but he's obviously, you know, I don't know if the family asked him to help, or if he just jumped on the bandwagon. I don't know, but then it's difficult to stop. He did the same with Jay Slater. He never looked for Jay, never helped really, did he, in any way, shape or form, except for get the message out. And then when he made these videos of the terrain, which were useful, then copyright striking anybody who uses them, you know, for less than 2 minutes of his footage. I don't know, Irene. Hi, Laurie. Hi, Irene. You're not that late, Laurie, today, to be honest. Okay, so now I didn't write a list of what I was going to show, because it's better if I write a list. But I'm just going to start off, I think, with showing the posts that Billy has put on, and which are public on his Facebook. They're not private. And I think, you know, I'm crying already. I've not even started showing them. But this is what I mean. I just want people to think of John as, you know, what he was, which was a person who wasn't perfect, went the wrong way maybe in life. We don't know the full circumstances, but he wasn't a bad person, you know, a truly bad person, and he was loved. And that's what I want to present about John is, you know, the human thing of John. Right, that's not where I want to be now. Hang on. So, yeah, now somebody first of all, I want to show this post that somebody put on that used to be football, had a football team back in the day, you know, when John was young. Let's see. Let me get back. Yeah, this is where he got a bit annoyed. Stop saying until I know. Anyway, never mind. I'm not going to read that out. There was a post by someone. Anyway, maybe I won't be able to find that actual post, but it was very sad, and it was talking about, you know, football team that they used to run, and they were talking about Johnny was in that football team, and when he was young, obviously. But out of the four of the players that this person was talking about, 3 of them now are deceased. So all similar age to John, around about 37. 3 of them before the age of 40 deceased. It's terrible, isn't it? It's sad. I don't know if the others were, what the reasons were that the others died, but obviously anyone who dies before the age of 40, it's not natural causes. Sorry, I've just got to go and rescue one of my dogs. Somehow has got something, and I've just got to go and make sure. What are you doing? Hey, leave it. What is it? What? Hey. Oh my goodness, I have no idea what that is. Randy, come in, good boy. Come in. I know he won't come now because he thinks I'm going to shout at him. Come on. Yeah, sorry about that. He had like a tissue. Where did you get that from? He had something that he's got from somewhere that he shouldn't have. So come here. So yeah, it's very sad. The other message that I want to give over, obviously there's a lot of people, it seems like John, until he was 16, he was boxing, he was doing sport, he was doing this and the other. And then that's when he started to go off the rails. And also he started to go off the rails, and he did go to prison. And of course, we'll hear this in this video we're going to listen to. And of course, once you go to prison, you meet a lot of other really, you might not be that bad for what you go to prison for. I don't know, whatever, if you're unlucky enough to get prison. Some people don't avoid prison. I think Jay Slater was lucky that way, wasn't he? He got a community service. But he could have gone to prison. And if he went to prison, it probably wouldn't have helped, was it? Whereas Jay, unfortunately, died in Tenerife, but he was starting to make a go of his life because he was lucky enough not to actually get a prison sentence. But once you go to prison, you meet some real hardened criminals then, and it can make, prison can be a bad thing for young people in the sense of it doesn't always teach them a lesson, does it? In fact, if anything, it teaches them, to be even badder or to meet people. I'd never forget reading about Ed Kemper, who's an American serial killer, when he went to prison. He did shoot his grandparents at the age of 16. He was a true psycho. But he was sent to prison. And he said all he learned in prison was that if you ever kill anyone, make sure the body's never found. Because it wouldn't have stopped him killing. He was a killer. And he did go on to kill a lot more people because they released him. So he murdered his grandparents at 16. A couple of years later, he was out free and went on to murder another load of people. But what I'm trying to say is prison depends on what you're in prison for, depends who you're in prison with. The sort of influences they are, what the program is, if you get any rehabilitation program or whatever. Anyway, it didn't work out well for John. Let's put it that way. That's what his family's saying. The person we're going to listen to talking in the podcast that we're going to listen to, she got to know Billy and the family through this case. And that's what she was saying about. And she is someone with experience in those kind of things. And she said it's like a story as old as time. If people, when they're young, they get caught for doing things, they get sent to prison, they normally come out, or often come out, sort of worse, if you like, worse offenders than when they went in. So that's sad, isn't it, really? And, maybe that's what happened with John. He just got involved with even badder people. I always get the impression about John, because the way Billy loves him, I think that love from his father, because, you know, fathers are always so demonstrative, are they? But the way Billy, in his own way, comes out, and the love that he holds for John, it's palpable, isn't it? It's like, look, I'm crying already. It's just, you know, it's just so very sad. So I think he knew that John was a little bit of a bad boy and everything, and he tried to set him on the right tracks and everything, but he was always there for John. That's all, you know, he was always there for, and that's how he knew that something had happened to John, because normally they would speak maybe 7 times a day. So when you know, John went quiet, he knew that it wasn't good. Anyway, so he put this post on about 13 hours ago, and he said, as I think you can see it, just let me make sure you can see it. So as I say, be prepared to cry, because it's heartrending. I'm bringing my son back to Twinbrook. I'm not sure what that means. He was reared with his friends. I came out here to get my son and said, I'm not leaving till I got him. Georgie, come back home. From the bottom of our hearts, we cannot repay the peoples of Belfast for the donations and support of the people. We'll never forget you. From Billy, George and Sharon, George family. Appreciate everything. And then he went on later on, and he said, well, people have commented on that comment, and people have been putting photos on of John. And then 11 hours ago, he put on the post, my boy is coming home to Twinbrook. Georgie coming home. Oh, so it just really upsets me. Then further on, later on, he put on another post 8 hours ago. Never can I repay the people of Belfast for their support. From the bottom of my heart, I could not have done this without your donations and support. I can only say thanks. From the George family. He'll be home soon. So he must have heard from the, you know, he must have been told it won't be long before they release the body. So that's a good thing. Anyway, then this video came out. Oh. No, you know, John, you look, I just look at him and I think he can't have been that terrible a person. I don't know why. He's always got, every photo you see of him, he's smiling. Anyway, 7 hours ago, Billy put on another post. To the people of Belfast and beyond, how can I repay you? You've given me strength to keep going for my son, Georgie. I know he was a melter at times, but he was my melter. Love all who donated, stood in the cold protest, stood in the cold from Twinbrook to Andersontown. We can never repay. But from the bottom of my heart, me, my poor wife Sharon, and John's brother and sisters and his 2 boys, we cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank you. Is all I can say. George is coming home to Twinbrook. Thanks from the George Hardy family. And then he's posted that video. Look at this. My son, love this. He's a melter, but my melter. I will never forget you, big lad. He always said to me, chill, Dad. So you just get the feeling that he was like, although he was a bad boy, and he knew he was a bad boy, but he was like the apple of his eye, wasn't he? You know, that's quite often happens, isn't it? A little bit of a bad boy, and he knew he was a bad boy, but he was the apple of his eye. And then 7 hours ago, as I say, get prepared to cry even more if you're anything like me. I said I would never leave you. I did not, but you did not listen to me, John. They were rats. I told you. God, it feels, even at 37, you don't listen to your parents, do you, what they're telling you? They were rats, I told you, but you thought they were your friends. Your friends were your family, not them bar stewards. I said this before. I'm not going to go on you, our boy, and we loved you. I had an argument with you. I had an argument with you on the 14th of December at 1:30 in the afternoon. I am so sorry what I said, but if you had listened to me, you promised be with us. No, I was only trying to put you on the right road, and they were never your friends, pack of baseball, but you will me. So they've had a row. That last time he's spoken to him, maybe sounds like Billy was trying to say to him, well, he said it to him, just come home now. He knew, he had that feeling, didn't he, that they were not his real friends. But you will meet them one day, son. You were too strong for them. That's why they done on you, my gorgeous George. Go meet your uncle, John. And Grant John, rest in peace. Son, love you. From Mum and Dad and the George Hardy families. Oh, gosh. Honestly, just heartbreaking. So that was the last post he put on. So it sounds like they had a bit of a discussion that afternoon, the last time he spoke to him. And of course, we know that that's when he begged him to come home. And unfortunately, Billy didn't get home in time, did he? Honestly, it's just heartbreaking. So what we're going to look at now, well, I just recover myself a bit. So as I say, someone sent me this podcast, which is very interesting. I hope you find it interesting too. And it gives us some really good insights into what was happening in Spain when Billy and the family first arrived in Spain. So let's have a listen to that and I'll get myself together. What have I done with it now? Hang on. But a poor Billy and the family, honest to God, anyway. They've got each other, they're strong, they're a strong family, that's the good thing as well. They've got each other's support and that'll mean a lot, and the fact that they've got John now and take him home, that'll mean a lot. So they'll come through it, but, of course it'd be horrible and all those things, but they've got each other and they're a strong family and they're supporting each other strongly. So this podcast that we're going to look at is Crime World. I've just I thought I had subscribed to it. I thought I had subscribed to it when I watched it before. Anyway, it's an Irish podcast. We've got two ladies talking here who, if you're in Ireland, you'll definitely know them. And even if you're not in Ireland, you may know one of them, the interviewer, because she's often on that. Is it Dermot? Oh, God, Dermot Mahoney. I'm sorry, I'm bound to say it wrong. Case Files with Dermot Murnaghan, is it? I can't remember his surname. But I've seen her quite often on that crime show. So, yeah.
Alison, thank you at the Spanish Police of a Crime World special investigation podcast based on my new book, Web of Betrayal, wherever you get your podcasts. Alison, thanks very much for coming on. We haven't spoken in a while, but our New Year's resolutions, well, mine anyway, speak to you a bit more often. So this is an incredible story that sort of, followed over Christmas and into the new year. The disappearance, as it is, of John George. And
now, sorry, I just want to say that this podcast was made before John's body was found. So this was made a couple of weeks ago. So it's not up to date with the fact that John had been found by the time this podcast was made.
I think the most recent development is that the Spanish police have launched a murder investigation. But as we haven't actually covered it yet, bring us back to the beginning and where it started.
Okay, so John George from Belfast, he is 37, he has 2 children. He travelled to Spain, to the Alicante region of Spain, in and around the second week of December. He told his family he was going to meet friends for a couple of days, and the last contact they had with him was at about 1:30 on the 14th of December. He phoned home, phoned his father, Billy. He was a wee bit distressed, I'd say, during that call. Billy said to him, get on a plane and get yourself home. The people you're with are not your friends. Just get home. He was booked on to an EasyJet flight on December the 18th from Alicante to Belfast International, and he never boarded that flight. Now, a lot of people would say, well, Alicante could have been in Benidorm, he could have been somewhere, on the piss somewhere. Billy George tells me that he was someone who would have phoned him 68 times a day. He actually was a nuisance. He phoned that much. And so immediately within a day, they started thinking of.
So yeah, he would normally phone his dad 6 to 8 times a day. And in fact, sometimes it could be a nuisance because he phoned that much. Because, I think it's funny is sometimes with your kids, anyone who's got kids will know, as they grow older and everything, and they start to grow away from you, and more for the friends, and sometimes they take the wrong turn-ins, and with I'm sure a lot of you know what I mean. You worry about them so much, but you've got no control. By the time they're adults, you've got no control over what they do. They do. You just hope. It's honest to God. I think if anyone ever told you about this before you are, oh, you want a little baby, oh, lovely little toddlers, this, that, and the other. If anyone told you what, it's adults that are harder, adult children are harder to cope with, they're more worry because you have no control whatsoever over what they're doing. So you just have to hope, that they're okay, really. And hope that, they've learned lessons from you, but you just don't know. You literally don't know, and you can be the best parent in the world. And if you're sat there and you've got very young kids and you're thinking, oh no, that'll never happen to me. Well, that was me. You think, oh no, you watch other people and you think, oh, why are they letting them do that? Or I don't understand why that's happening. And then when it hits you and it comes to your turn to go through that, I don't think, and honest to God, that is the biggest contraceptive. If you knew that already, I don't understand why anyone who already had grown-up kids would have any more kids. Because it's hard. It's really, really hard, and you never get a day's peace. You worry about them every time they're out of the house. You worry about everything. But what she's saying about him ringing 7 times a day, I do think that the more difficulties they're going through, like they might make out they don't need their mum or their dad or their family, but really they're the ones that are having problems. They need them more than anyone. And there's John ringing his dad between 6 and 8 times a day. Probably sometimes that was irritating, but of course he'd love to have that now, wouldn't he? He'd love it, I remember some of my sisters ringing my mum, when they were in the 40s and everything, like complaining about relationships or this, that, and the other. I don't think it ever changes, does it? And I'm sure I did it, but you don't realise when you're doing it, what you're doing to your parents and how you're making them worry. But at the end of the day, your parents love you, and that's what they're there for.
There was something weird that he hadn't called them back. He wasn't answering his phone. And people thought maybe he just lost his phone, that'll be fine. But when he didn't get on the plane on the 18th, they started to worry. At the first, they started just putting stuff on Facebook and whatever, saying, if anyone's seen him in and around this area. They tried to contact the person who he said he was going to meet on holiday, and they had shut down all of their social media. Billy George did get speaking to him briefly, but he...
What date was that on that he got speaking to him briefly?
He got speaking to him, I think it was sometime in and around the 20th, 21st of December, but the person wouldn't tell him where he was, and then put the phone down on him and switched the phone off. The phone hasn't been switched on again since then. So all over Christmas, the family are frantic. This guy has 2 kids. This is really a character for him. He's, quite codependent almost on his family. So the fact that they hadn't heard from him, they were concerned, very, very worried. And then things
Yeah, that's how I think they are. They're like they are codependent, but it is always on their terms. You know, when it's like when they're okay. When you don't hear from them for a little while, you'd think, oh, they must be okay because then they'll ring you again. But I don't know how long it'd be. Sometimes you think, oh, you start off thinking, oh, it's good that I've not heard from them because they must be okay. They must be having a good time, and then it ticks past a point, doesn't it, where you think, oh, hang on a minute, I've not heard from them for a while. Are they okay? You don't know when the time is that you should start worrying because they're grown-ups. He's 37 years old, but it still doesn't matter. He could be 37 or 13. It's still the same worry that you have.
Sort of hotted up in terms of what they were hearing that may have well happened to him. They went over to Spain then to search for him as soon as Christmas was over. Billy went over first and then was joined by some other people and other family members. And then last Saturday, I got up to get the red-eye flight very early in the morning. I went over, and just as I landed, they had traced the house. They'd been given a tip-off of address where they knew that their son had been staying, one of the last places he was seen. And they arrived at that house. Shortly after they arrived, the Garda Civil arrived not long after them, and then I arrived not long after that. There was a wee bit of chaos going on at this particular time. There was two younger men from Northern Ireland in that house. Both of them, the police spoke to them. They are suspects only in that it's believed that they know something about what happened. They're not suspected of actually being involved in the killing of Mr. George, who his family now believed at this stage had been murdered. The police spoke to them, forensics officers arrived, took some things away. At this stage, they were saying this is now no longer a missing person investigation, it's a criminal investigation, but not a murder investigation. But then they spoke to several neighbours. They were taking CCTV, they were taking dash cam. There was a mobile home, like a camper van parked outside with dash cam at each side of it, and the police were very interested in it. And then I went up and down that street and spoke to some of the neighbours. Very affluent sort of area of Spain, quite close to Lasagna. Beautiful villas, mostly Norwegians, a lot of Dutch, They were telling me a lot of people who would live there maybe 5 months of the year and then rent the place out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, was it? There's a lot of different nationalities there. It's not only Brits. It's not in the sort of a little bit out of the way where most of the Irish people are at Lasagna. She mentions Lasagna, and the other lady seems to know about Lasagna. That particular area, there'd be a lot of different nationalities. Not many Spanish, though. It is an expat area. I wouldn't say it's an exclusive area to be, it's just like all the other areas.
For the summer months, not the kind of place you would imagine a bunch of sort of wannabe bad boy gangsters from Northern Ireland landing into the middle of it, which is why they draw attention to themselves straight away. So a guy from Northern Ireland who is actually a suspect in the murder. So take away these two guys, younger fellas. Fella from Northern Ireland had been renting this villa along with a teenage girl. They had left on the 20th of December. The neighbours said that the girl would have come out and she had decorated a Christmas tree at the front. It covered in lights. It would have all switched on. There'd been dogs barking. A guy would have come out on his motorbike and off he went. And on the 20th of December, the neighbours said the house went into darkness. And they disappeared and hadn't been seen since. One of the other neighbours told me that the BMW that they had been driving showed up about a week or two before this, bashed up to pieces, like it had been in a car accident.
No, that's interesting. There's someone, I think it was Audacity, mentioned about a BMW the other day, and they said this BMW turned up all bashed to pieces or whatever. So I don't know what happened with that.
Which is bringing you back further towards the 14th of December as opposed to the 20th.
The day. And then I knew that police then were taking this much more seriously than maybe they were publicly saying, because all of the neighbours I spoke to had been asked a very specific question by police, by the Garda Civil, had asked them, did you hear gunshots from that property between the 14th and the 17th of December? Now, that's very specific. The family didn't even have that date of the 17th in their mind. So the fact that...
Yeah, the Guardia Civil are very sort of keen on this gunshot thing. Why? Because, Madison said, didn't she, when she came out, that nothing happened in the apartment, because we don't know if what Madison is saying is true. But for the Guardia Civil to be going round and specifically asking the neighbours, did you hear gunshots? Which, of course, if there was fiestas going on, you wouldn't know. God, if someone came and asked me, did you hear gunshots? you know, my regular viewers, you know, how often do I sit here and do a live where these blooming fireworks going off in the background? Sounds like somebody's having a gun battle outside. As someone said at New Year, it sounds like Call of Duty. So, you know, what would I say? So, well, I don't know if I heard gunshots, but I heard a lot of fireworks. But yeah, the Guardia Civil were very insistent with that. Whereas Madison is claiming that nothing happened in the apartment. But why were the Guardia asking about that, I wonder? You know, did they? I think the Guardia maybe know a little bit more as well about the whole history of those people in that apartment, you know, because one of the people has been in prison, apparently, in Spanish prison before. So, you know, the Guardia Civil, oh, well, you'll find out in a minute, they've got so much information that you don't even realise that they've got. This journalist, she talks about it later. I think, you know, this interview does give a good insight into what was happening there.
They knew that, led me to believe that there was more known by the Spanish police than they were telling us. The neighbour said that it was coming up to Christmas in Spain. They have a lot of fiestas and holy holidays, and there was a lot of fireworks and stuff around that time. But one of the neighbours did go and check through their CCTV before he handed it over to the police. And he said in and around that sort of 14, 15, 16, there was a lot of comings and goings in that house. There was cars, there was people getting in and out. There's no sound on his CCTV, so he couldn't hear what they were saying. But he said that there was just a lot of activity. One of the other neighbours said, look up and down this street. You know, these are retired couples, professionals, you know, people mainly from, you know, Europeans, mainly Scandinavians living here. A bunch of people from Northern Ireland, you know, with, you know, motorbikes and fancy beamers and lots of comes and going. They stood out like sore thumbs. They just nobody.
Is this Torrevieja where it is, or is it a different part of Alicante? Is it Torrevieja?
Yeah, it's Orwellia, I think it is. You call it. So it's about a.
They can't pronounce it. It's Orwella. Orwella, it's pronounced, but you know, people have a big problem. British people in general, not just Irish people, have a big problem pronouncing Orwella. For some reason they say Oriella or this, that or the other, but it's pronounced Orwella, and it's Orwella Costa, because Orwella, if you said, oh, I was going to Orwella, people would think you meant the town, which is miles away. It's nearly 200 kilometres away. Sorry, I might be wrong there. It might be 200 miles. I don't know, because I'm rubbish with numbers. But it's a long way away, put it that way. So this is the Orwella Costa we're talking about. But yeah, she's having problems pronouncing it. Most Irish people know lasagna. That's where most Irish people are concentrated, in that area.
40-minute drive from Alicante Airport. They call that the Alicante region. So the police force or the Alicante region police. But I suppose for people who would maybe holiday in that region, it's quite close to Lasagna, which is where a lot of people from Ireland, I think, would hotliday.
Yes, and it's also the place where John Gilligan would have based himself for a long time. Other Irish gangsters certainly have.
Yeah, so I've been finding out a lot. So there's a lot of gangsters reputedly in that area. And as this lady's going to go on to say, you know, whenever anything happens, everyone says, oh, it might be to do with the Gilligans, but, you know, it isn't always, you know, and they keep a low profile because they know the Guardia and they know the way the Guardia work and this, that and the other. They're not going to go out there. I think for them to do something, it would, you know, I still don't really understand why this happened to John. It seems like a very extreme thing to do. It seems like a very unplanned thing to do, because if that was the Gilligans or any of those, John would definitely never have been found. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this hasn't been very professional, really, I don't think. So it makes you wonder why it happened.
Of properties out there and would be out there quite a lot. It's a bit of a hotbed, actually, while it is all that you say as well. And I've been there a few times on different stories, fabulous villas, you know, a sort of a population of wealthy Europeans living side by side, cheek by jowl with some of the underworld's most infamous characters.
But most of those people who you're talking about, they're experienced gangsters who would have the sense to keep their head down. These people were not keeping their head down. They were making it very obvious that they shouldn't, you know, that they were not the type of people who usually live down there. And they've been jumping from villa to villa.
Exactly. You'd keep your head down, wouldn't you? You're not going to, you know, put a flag out and say, "Oh, I'm a gangster." But also, those, honestly, I know she keeps saying they're exclusive apartments. They really are not. Those apartments are not exclusive apartments. I would imagine, like, people who were proper gangsters or whatever, they will live in much better places than those. You know, much, much better places, detached villas, maybe out in the country. You know, they wouldn't live in an apartment surrounded by lots of other people. They just wouldn't. So I think there's a bit of a misconception there that those were exclusive apartments.
They had been using a guy who was actually had a British passport, but he had lived in Alicante all his life. I think from he was like 2 or 3 years of age. They were using him to rent both residential and commercial properties. That they were using. The commercial properties were never actually turning into anything. They were being hired, you know, gyms, you know, tattoo parlors, cannabis shops, cafes, but nothing ever happened with them. A lot of villas, which I think a lot of them were being used for cannabis grows, where they were just renting the villa and then using it for that. So these are, you know, people who were over there, I suppose, you know, play acting in that sort of gangster world, in a world that was the Costa del Crime at one stage. You know, a lot.
Now, yeah, around the same time that there's also around the same area where John's body was found. Also, not that long ago, there was a Lithuanian guy was shot trying to break into a house that had a marijuana farm. So there's a lot of marijuana farms out here. You know, people rent villas or whatever and grow marijuana in them. And this poor guy, he must have known that it was a marijuana farm there, and he thought, "Oh, I'll just, you know, break in and steal a bit of marijuana," and he got shot. So by, I presume, the people who own the marijuana. You know, people have been asking, is it connected with John George? I don't know, but it's not the same area, because where John was found was Rocales. This other murder was in Quesada, which is right next to Rocales, but Quesada's like the expat part of that municipality, whereas Rocales is more where the Spanish live. So
a lot of English or sort of old school criminals would have made that part of Spain their home back in the day. You know, when you go back to the 70s and the 80s. The stood out like a sore thumb. They'd gone. So the person who is the main suspect, this girl, had left. They had left these two boys behind. And, you know, the only way I can explain, because I stood outside that house for most of the day, went up and down the street, spoke to the neighbours. The only way I could describe those two young men is they looked like ghosts. I mean, they were living in Spain in a sunny climate. They'd been there for months.
Right.
And they were grey.
They were on their factor 50.
They were the colour of, like, the only way I could describe them is they were colour of like cold porridge, dark circles around their eyes, their hoods up, they were unkempt, unshaven, they looked scruffy, they looked dirty, they were, you know, shaken.
Yeah, they were probably, you know, on drugs, but also probably leading a nocturnal life and not going out in the daytime. I thought one of them, he wasn't actually there when this is all supposed to have kicked off with John George. I thought he didn't arrive till afterwards, but anyway, this is what she's saying.
And one of them, somebody showed me a picture of him about 6 months previously, before, as he just arrived in Spain, you know, and he was tanned, muscly, you know, that sort of 20-something, you know, that look that the men that age have. And to go from that to that in 6 months, you know, that was probably the bit that I thought, my goodness, there's people on social media portraying this as something, and when these people arrive, it's something very, very different. But that guy's missing. John George is missing. Enter into it a host of misinformation and disinformation that was being passed. So there is a video of John George where he basically looks like he's very deeply intoxicated when he arrived in Spain, and he's messing around saying oh, I'm with the Russian mafia, with the Kinahans, I've actually had this conversation where I don't know how many other people, because you and I both work in crime reporting and we know, but maybe other people who work in other aspects of reporting don't know. Anything that happens now that has even remotely got anything to do with drugs or any kind of drug-related violence, the first thing people say is, I heard it was the Kinahans. And 99 times out of 100, it has got nothing to do with the Kinahans. It also hadn't got anything to do with Russians. So there's a video of John George, and in this you can see he looks a bit out of it. He's waffling on, going on about Russian mafia and all sorts of things. And you can hear a guy speaking on a mobile phone in a foreign language. And so originally it was like, oh, he was with people from the Russian mafia. So I would have quite a lot of friends in that region of Spain where I'd be back and forth with her quite a lot of times. And one of them owns a lot of businesses, and I know she employs Russians and Ukrainians in that business. So I had sent it to her and said, could you get one of the girls to listen to this and tell me what language they're speaking, and is it Russian? And she came back and said, no, it's not Russian, it's not Ukrainian. She thinks it sounds Romanian. So then I had sent it to Romanians who I know who live in Belfast. They listened to it and said, that's not Romanian. It's also not Albanian, because Albanian and Romanian are quite similar, and I understand some words of Albanian. I can't speak it, but I would know that it was Albanian. So it's neither Romanian, it's not Albanian, it's not Romani either, which is obviously a different dialect. So it turns out it was actually a guy from Czechoslovakian. So enter into this another character who's.
So this Czechoslovakian guy, I think, is the guy who's been arrested. I'm going to check in a minute. As far as I know, he's still in custody, but they had 72 hours to question him and decide whether to charge him or not. Let's hope that that they have got enough evidence to charge him if he is the guilty one. So what the Guardia had said yesterday was that they weren't discounting other arrests. There may be other arrests, but they were happy that this guy was guilty. But, they've got to present that evidence to a judge, and in Spain, the way she's going to tell you in a moment about how different things work in Spain. They have to present whatever evidence they've got to a judge, and then the judge decides whether they get charged or not.
There's a guy from the Czech Republic who is a key suspect in this. In terms
so
of
he's in the background. He's in the background as John George is messing about on this video.
Waffling on his phone, and you can hear him speaking in a language which we then established
is Czechoslovakian. So that video was taken when he arrives in around sort of the 14th. The last phone call he has with his father, he's sounding a bit distressed, is the 14th of December. And the police in Spain appear to be now homing in on the 14th to the 6th, 17th.
The 17th, yeah.
So something has happened within that house, within that property, where neighbours have said they've seen all these cars and bikes and activities going on. And the question has been asked, did anyone hear gunshots? So we can kind of see where this is going. But the Spanish police seem to be fairly slow in launching an actual murder inquiry. I mean, we're well into the new year now, and they have only just done so.
Yeah, so while I was there, Billy George had a meeting with the Spanish police, with detectives. He had asked, could he come in and speak to them? So I actually drove him down to that meeting, and he had said, look, will you come in and sit in this meeting with me? Which I was prepared to do, but then the police officer there actually said, could you have passports before I start speaking to you so that we know who you are? And I gave him my passport, and he put my name in the computer and said, you're a journalist, you need to go.
Yeah, what about that? So he's taken her passport off her, put her name in the computer, and it's come up that she's a journalist, and he wouldn't let her stay there then.
Stop this meeting, and I said, look, please don't stop the meeting. This man is desperate for information about his son. I will get up and walk outside and wait outside. He had asked me would I come with him, which I was happy to do, but I'm also happy to leave. I don't know whether I'd be scared or impressed that he put my name in a computer in Spain and it came up that I was a journalist. I don't know what kind of file exists on me in the Alicante region of Spain, but clearly there's something. Because then I had to stand outside for an hour and a half waiting while this meeting went on. Billy came out of the meeting and he wasn't happy about what had been.
Well, there you go. That's the Guardia feel. So the only person they would have allowed in there with Billy would have been his interpreter, whoever that was. I don't know who he was using for interpreting. But, everything is documented in Spain. you have to show your NIE number, your identity number, or your residency. You have to show it practically to go to the toilet in Spain. That's it. You can't just walk into a police station. They won't even entertain you unless you've got identity documents. Now, that's not only for foreign people, Spanish people too. Spain is a country where everyone has an identity document from when they're born. So, like it or not, that's the way it is in Spain. So it's interesting, though, that it came up that she was a journalist, wasn't it? That is interesting. How would they know? How would they know that she was a journalist? Maybe she's got that on her passport, her profession, has she? Do you put your profession on your passport? I have no idea. Maybe when you now, where Northern Ireland is Britain, isn't it? So, yeah, because after Brexit, probably have to fill something out before you come in. I don't know. Don't know how they would have known she was a journalist, but they did.
Being said, he says that they weren't given him very much information, but I just think that's what way they operate there. It's a very different judicial system. It's a very different justice system. They're not stupid.
Exactly. It's so nice to hear somebody else saying it, that what I've been trying to say to people, that the Spanish system is different, but it doesn't mean to say it's worse. It's probably better, personally. I think it's better, and it's just the way it is. Their justice system is different. So it's nice to hear this lady, confirming what I've been saying.
But they're not naive. These are very, very experienced officers who, as you said, there's been a lot of gang crime on that part of Spain for years, for decades going back. This isn't their first rodeo, so to speak. They've seen all this before, but they're not for sharing information the way maybe you would have like a liaison officer here who would work with families and keep them up to date about people who were arrested and things like that. That's not going to happen in Spain. You're not going to get any of that. So while it would be, if it was someone belonging to you, you would be frustrated at the speed at which it's moving. I have the impression that the Spanish police know more than they're letting on, and that they're working towards it. I do think that in Spain, you have to have quite a considerable amount of the case already done before you arrest the suspect.
Exactly. That's the way it works. So because they've got to go for a judge, they couldn't arrest that suspect unless a judge okayed it. So they've got to, accumulate all the evidence before they can even arrest someone. They can't arrest someone on suspicion in perhaps the same way that you can in Britain. Oh, and the other thing is, it was the Guardia that found John. So for some reason, they went to that remote finca, that partida. That's a partida. It's like a cut. It's so difficult to, somebody who knows absolutely nothing about Spanish was trying to pick me up on how I tried to interpret it, because there is no English word for a partida, which is where the Spanish were describing he was found. It's like a country. I was saying country lane. It's not right, but it's like how we would say in English, like if you've got like a clough or a cut, like in the country. There is just no exact translation of it. Anyway, it was a Guardia. It was the Guardia, because I was wondering, did the farmer find him, or did the dogs find him? But no, it was actually the Guardia that found him. They were searching that area for a reason. So it makes you wonder, why were they searching that area? Maybe there was a tracker on the hire car. Maybe there's some pings. Maybe it was a helicopter drone search. Who knows? But it was the Guardia that found him, apparently.
It's not like here you can arrest people several times and let them out and arrest them several times. So I do think there's an element of that going on. Meantime, the family were having to be, I suppose, detectives themselves. I remember, I didn't know these people till last week. I'd never met them, never spoke to them. I arrived and found. And can I also say too, because I noticed a lot of people on social media making comments about, well, what was he doing with them and what was he doing there?
Oh.
John's parents, Billy and Sharon, are very upfront about their son and their son's past. They're not, saying, our poor little angel went to Spain and these big bad boys picked on him. I had a conversation with his mother, which I think will resonate with a lot of people that listen to your podcast, Nicola, because what she said was he was a boxer and he was a very good boxer.
So this is the bit that I'm saying about when we listen about it. This, to me, it says it all. You know, if you think your family's perfect, your son's perfect, that would never happen to you or any of your family, you have no idea. You really don't.
He was a great kid. He would have been in bed at 9:30 and up to crack of dawn to go and do his road work before he started training in the gym. He had, as a kid, he had fought Carl Frampton and beat him.
Right.
And he's actually mentioned in Carl Frampton's book. So this lad had a promising future ahead of him. And then when he hit 16, and this is like a story as old as time, fell in with a bad crowd, started hanging around with people who were much older than him, and he ended up finding himself in prison in the Youth Detention Centre. His mother said that he told her that while he was there, that when they first put him in there, he had never spent a night not under his parents' roof, and he cried and cried and cried himself to sleep every night. And eventually they prescribed him with medication to help him sleep and with his anxiety. And he became addicted to that and then started buying prescription medication off other prisoners. And by the time he emerged from prison, he was addicted to those type of prescription drugs. And he had also made himself a whole lot of new friends who he had met in prison, who were actual criminals. And that is, you know, I visit prisons quite a lot. I was actually up in Haybank a few weeks before Christmas. And if you speak to many of those young men there, their stories are very similar. You know, I wanted to be a professional footballer and then this happened. I wanted to do this and then this happened. So they're very...
Yeah. Now, the thing is, everyone has choices. Of course they do. Some people make the right choice. Don't go down that line. Some people do, or some people get caught. Because I know people that are just lucky that they didn't get caught. They went through that phase of doing bad things when they were maybe 14, 15, 16. Their friends got caught and they didn't get caught. So they didn't go to prison, didn't go. I'm not talking about murder. I'm talking about doing things like stealing or drugs, like, you know, but not like on a big scale. Now, some people are looking, they don't get caught. And then I know people that have then made an absolute go of their life, like brilliant, turned out brilliant, come through that. But then some people, if they get caught and they get sent to prison, like, you know, it just sounds like with John, how awful, you know, to go to prison. I don't know what he was sent to prison for, but anyway, he's just ended up getting addicted to sort of legal drugs, if you like, just to, you know, how do you get through that prison sentence? And also he's got to know people who are, you know, even worse than the other people he knew on the outside.
Upfront about that. They're not pretending that John was some
angel.
John had met the people who he was going to meet in Spain. He had been introduced to them through people that he had met in prison.
So he's somebody who's made bad decisions, and the family are openly saying that. But they obviously had a real closeness, that he was ringing his father so often that they were able to recognise the distress in his voice around the 14th, and that they became so worried so quickly when they didn't hear from him. So it's obviously a very close family too.
So he sounds to me as if he was someone who was very naive, very easily led. You know, if you told him, oh, we're going to do this and there's big money in this and we'll make a fortune, he'd have been the first way out the door to do it, regardless of the consequences. He sounds like, you know, someone who had been, and this is, I suppose, the story behind the story. The person who from Northern Ireland, who's the main suspect, has deleted all their social media. Prior to them deleting their social media, it was like the Instagram lifestyles of the rich and famous. He was posting pictures of jet skis and Harley Davidson motorbikes and beautiful villas that are worth, you know, 1-2 million euro, posting pictures at really high-end restaurants, you know, the clinking of glasses, the whole thing, and painting a picture of, look, this is the life I'm living out here, you know, I'm the big bad boy gangster opening all these businesses, look at me. And then young men were being sent for from Northern Ireland who were coming out to join him. And they were to be, you know, whatever they were to be, his runners, but to mind these properties that he was renting, to do whatever it was he was bringing them out to do, clearly with the lure and the promise of a flashy lifestyle. And then I seen two of those young men stand in the garden of that house, and they looked like ghosts. You know, they looked like shadows, shells of human beings. So there's a story, I think, behind the story as well.
Thing is, when you live here, as long as I've lived here, I've seen it all. I'm sorry, I have. And anyone who doesn't understand, we call it the Gatwick diploma as well. People come over, they get on a plane at Gatwick and then they come over to Spain and suddenly they reinvent themselves. They're this, they're that, they can do this, they can do anything, blah, de, blah, de, blah. They last about 5 minutes normally and then they end up going home because they have no idea what it's like to try and live in Spain and how life is. And as I say, like that lifestyle she's talking about, I've seen their posts and things. They're nothing, they're only like what anybody who lived in Spain could put on. Those apartments aren't any better than anybody else's apartments. There's nothing special really about, I've seen places that are special. Some people do live in special places and, there are some fabulous villas but those apartments aren't. But I understand that when somebody doesn't know the area, doesn't live in the place, doesn't know that this is just common. I mean, that area that they're in, it's like, I always think of it as like a council estate in the sun, because there's a lot of apartments all built up on each other. So I think that most people who seriously were living the good life in Spain, they'd have a detached villa, and like they wouldn't be living in apartments all backed up together like that. So, it's all like a bit of a fantasy, but, social media is like that. Can't believe what you see on social media. You can present something to look fabulous. As we know, nothing on social media is real. You have to look behind the smiles and the this and the that and the other. And then, like she says, when she went out there and those two young lads looked like they hadn't seen the sun for a year. Life is not always greener on the other side of to come and live in Spain. It's hard to live in Spain. It's hard to make a living. If you don't speak the language, everything's difficult. You get illnesses, you get problems, everything is the same. It's just that the sun's shining 300 days of the year. But those other 60 odd days of the year that the sun's not shining, because in the Alicante region, we do have 300 sunny days a year, apparently. But also, as unfortunately John's family has found when they've been trying to search for John, we do have bad weather sometimes. We do have terrible weather sometimes. But 300 days of the year, it's normally sunny. But you get used to it. You get used to it being sunny. And in fact, in the end, the sun's just irritating. But I know it's not when you're out on holiday and that. But when you live here all the time, if you watch what the Spanish people do, you won't see them so much out in the sun, etc.
Well, John George has arrived out there for a few days. Whatever's happened, and we don't know, but we do know that there's 2 suspects. His family know that he's dead. Both of these suspects have been in touch, one directly and the other one indirectly. And I'll tell you a bit about that because I just find that very cruel intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy from Czech Republic has spoke to the family and he's blaming the other person. He's saying the other person killed your son. I don't know where your son's body is, but it might be here or it might be there or it might be, and he's sending them on wild goose chases. The other person.
Yeah, just a reminder, this video was made before John was found. And of course, they're talking about the Eastern European guy, they're talking about Madison and Johnny.
Is all communication has been shut off, but through 2 women, one younger woman and one older woman, he was sending messages back to the family saying exactly the same thing. Your son's dead. I didn't kill him. That guy from the Czech Republic killed him. Ask him where his body is. I don't know where his body is. He killed him. I wasn't there. I know nothing about it. And then they're sending a lot of misinformation, oh, we were stopped by the police, such and such, and I didn't see him after that. And the police are going, nonsense, never happened. Or no, we were stopped by a different police. It was the Mercia police, ask them. They're saying nonsense, none of this ever happened. So there was a lot of misinformation sent to the family on wild goose chases. And on one occasion I was out, there's a load of people who had arrived over, family and friends. They all had T-shirts where John George's face in it. They're out looking around. And it was actually lovely because people in the area were coming over and going, look, we've seen this in the paper, read it online or seen it on social media. Can we join you? Because we know the area, we know the landscape. We'll take you around, show you where, all the waste ground or potential places that it could be. and they were joining him. And the next thing, John's brother Darren, who is just the loveliest guy, he gets a message from one of these women, the older women, going, she's sending me the location of John's body. And you can imagine, you know, everyone's done, oh my God, and there's people crying and hugging each other, and this is it, thank God, we'll get to bring him home.
That just was terrible, wasn't it? All those times they got sent information and went out with the hope. Imagine hope, but the hope is you're going to find your son's body. You know, that's your best case scenario. You know, it's terrible, really, but that's the good outcome. And somebody sends you a location after you've been wondering where they are for weeks or whatever and searching for a few days. I had a search party out from Ireland and this, that and the other. Someone sends you a location and the hope, it's like a hope, but the hope that you'll find your son's dead body. It's awful, isn't it? And then you get there and it's like rubbish. You know, it's just not a correct location at all, or it's a location, it was miles and miles, wasn't it? Trying to search these places that are impossible to search. You know, disgusting the way that family's been treated.
They were saying, we'll ring Kevin Bell, you know, the Kevin Bell Trust. They were literally ready to phone Kevin Bell Trust to try and get his body sent home. This is where it is. And the next thing, the message comes through and Darren says to me, Alison, where is that? And he shows me the phone. And it was a map with a circle drawn around about a 60, 70 square mile radius right from the coast going right up into the inland. And I said, Darren, that's nowhere. That's like, what I actually said to him at the time was, that's like me saying to you, your brother's body's somewhere between Belfast and Newry. It could be anywhere there, but it's actually longer. It's actually Dundalk. It would be like me saying there's a body and it's somewhere between Belfast and Dundalk. Either way side, couldn't tell you where, won't find it. I mean, it was just, I thought it was a nasty thing to do. And someone, you know, and these people they thought that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. We're going to get him. We'll get him home. We'll get out of here. We'll get out of Spain. We'll go home. We'll give him a decent burial. At least as, you know, his mother have somewhere to put flowers. And it was just nonsense. And the person
They're totally frantic,
would be intelligent enough to know that it was nonsense. And that was probably one of the things that I was there that I thought, these people and their associates and everyone with them, they're just toying with this family and they're toying with their
So tell me this, go back to the house. Was the house, you know, did the police move in, and was that house at one point or at any point that you know of been a crime scene?
So it was that day, it definitely was, because the forensics officer...
That day being what date?
That was on Saturday, which I think was the 29th of December. So when I was there, police showed up, uniformed police showed up then, forensics officers showed up. They held the two young men. Now, we were later told that one of those young men that both those young men were on police bail. Someone said, well, then why didn't they take their passports? Because I ended up on the same flight as one of them on the way home. But yeah,
right.
But they could have taken their passport because, as you know, people listening to this may or may not know, in Northern Ireland we have a right to dual citizenship because of the Good Friday Agreement. So I could have a British or an Irish passport or both. And just a lot of people have both. Then if they lost one, they have another one. So they may well have done that. But the thing is that they may have information that have been helpful to the family, but they're pretty inconsequential, I think, when it comes to the actual murder and disappearance. At which
the thing is, they've only gone to Ireland, isn't it? So, you know, although I think it would have come up on their passport, if the police would have said, no, you can't leave the country, they would definitely have put some sort of a marker on their passport. But as this lady says, maybe they did have two passports. You know, a lot of Irish people are lucky that they can do that. I wish I could have two passports. You know, I don't want to give up my British passport, but I hate being British now after Brexit and that, because you've got, you know, it doesn't give you any. A British passport now means hardly anything, you know, really, apart from going to Britain. You know, it doesn't give you, you know, a Spanish passport gives you more access to more countries now. But, of course, in Spain, you can't have two. You can only to have a Spanish passport, which I could have because I've been in Spain for long enough. I would have to give up my British passport, and there's still a part. You know, I am British. I am, you know, I'm patriotic. I don't really want a Spanish nationality. I've got a Spanish residency, but you know, I'm British, and I'm like clinging to this. So I'm British type thing, but sometimes I think I should just, give it up. But so what I'm trying to say is, yeah, maybe the police did mark something on his passport, but he travelled on his other passport. Tommy Robinson does that, of course. Good old Tommy Robinson. That's what he does. He's all, all Brexit, this, that, and the other. He lives in Spain. He travels on an Irish passport. He's got all the benefit. He doesn't get all the bad things about Brexit because he's got an Irish passport as well. Anyway, never mind. That's a whole nother story. But so, yeah, they might have done that. Or maybe they just let him go anyway, because at the end of the day, he's only gone to Ireland. If the Spanish want him back, they're going to just get on the phone to the Northern Ireland. There's an extradition thing. If they had proof that he was actually responsible in some way for John's death. I don't think that guy, that guy is responsible. I think he's like an acolyte who's got sort of involved in it all somehow. Because he was at the property, but maybe he knows something. I don't know, but I just get that feeling that I don't think the Guardia would have let him go, or they would have said to him, "Don't leave the country" or whatever. But if they wanted to get him back, it's not difficult. He's only gone to Ireland. He's not gone to Thailand. And of course, there was all those rumours that someone had gone to Thailand. Well, who went to Thailand? Because they arrested the Eastern European guy. You've got to be really careful on social media sometimes. You do get all these rumours, unfounded rumours. For me, unless I hear it from the family or I hear it from the Guardia, but more even, no offence to the family, but more even from the Guardia, because they know the official things that are going on. I wouldn't listen to any of it.
At which point, there are two men and potentially one woman who may have been involved in helping or assisting in some way, and that is as far as I can see. And they have been told, they have managed to rule out themselves, probably through their own detective work, that there is no Russian mafia, there's no Albanian gangsters. At one stage, some random Scouser was being thrown into the mix, some Scouse gangster, it might have been him, the Kinahans, forget everybody you can think of. All of this is ruled out. What happened was closer to home, and it was people who were known to John George. And really at this point, the family are saying, we don't even care at this point.
So this is probably some sort of a chaotic fight, some sort of perhaps a drug-fueled row has broken out within this home. But unfortunately,
the use of a weapon, I think, elevates that. Usually if you have a row, someone gets battered or, didn't mean to do that,
But there's been some reports, obviously, of gunshots, and clearly he's been taken somewhere. But as the days go on, as is the case in a lot of, missing people, or when a murder investigation isn't started quick enough, there has been presumably a loss of evidence there, and the chances of finding him and discovering
a significant loss of evidence. The people if you look at today's Belfast Telegraph, there's a young woman called Madison Allen who had been living in that house. She is an OnlyFans creator who had been living there. She says, I didn't leave that house because anything happened to John George, and I left because I have 6XL bullies and it was too small for them and I needed to move to a bigger place.
Yeah, Madison. But anyway, she's insisting nothing happened in the apartment, but the Guardia seem to think it did. I don't think it'll just be because of, they've seen that CCTV now of things, of people coming and going. Maybe they saw a body being loaded into the car. We just don't know. We don't know. How would they have got John out to that area? Drove him out there? Or did something happen into the apartment? They loaded him into the car and took him there? The Guardia definitely seemed convinced that something had happened there. But Madison, who do you believe, the Guardia or Madison? It's hard to say, isn't it? But Madison is adamant that nothing happened in the apartment. So, I think Madison really is only really saying what she's being told to say. That's the impression I get about Madison. But maybe she knows more, but she's not going to say anything unless she's given permission to say it, in my opinion. She's not going to come out with anything independently.
Yes, I don't know who has 6XL bullies. That even gives me a headache even thinking about it.
And where did she make this video?
He put this video on TikTok 2 days ago.
From Spain?
Yeah, and she had been, which is why I'm able to say her name, because she
Yeah.
named herself as being, and claiming that she knew nothing about this, that she now thinks she's under threat, that she's not telling anyone where she's living because she's afraid that she's under threat, that her dogs, she mentions her dogs more than she mentions John George in this video. But she said she's been helping the family. Well, I have seen the communication between her and the family, and it was less than helpful in terms of what information was saying. But what we are saying is the picture that I've told you already. They're just all blaming each other. Everyone's blaming each other. And in the meantime, Canine Search and Rescue, who are a rescue service from Northern Ireland, they went over on New Year's Day with 2 dogs, and they're trying to look. But there's no point in looking unless you have a general location. And they keep getting told locations where he may be, and he's just not there. And until someone within this...
But that's what I said. I mean, it's so nice that they came over to try and help, but how could they help? They don't know the area for a start. So it's not even like searching in Northern Ireland where they know that area. They're searching in an area they haven't got a clue where to start. They've got no, you need somewhere to start from. And look at where he's been found. Absolutely miles away from that apartment where he was, so he was. It's a miracle that he's been found. Maybe there was a tip-off. I don't know, because you just think, oh my God, when it turned out to be Rockhallis, that would, that would be the last place. It was never, Rockhallis had never been mentioned that it might be, it could be in Benidorm, Alicante, Orihuela Costa, the beach, you name it, all the places that he might have been. Rockhallis was never mentioned, so he was in a place that would never have been found. So although that search team came out, and it was great what they did, and they tried to help, it was brilliant, but really they had absolutely no chance. It'd be like a search team from Spain going out to Ireland or Britain or anywhere, and then would say, like, if you go to England, I say, oh well, he's in Cambridgeshire, or he's definitely in Greater Manchester somewhere, and it's a Spanish search team, and they don't even know Greater Manchester. Oh, it's near a river. What river? Just pointless searching where you've got no. You need a pinpoint, don't you? You need a pinpoint search. So having said that, I expect they gave the family comfort being there and helping, but really they had no chance of finding him. And now it turns out where he was finally found, it was nowhere near because they'd been given, false information by Madison, etc. It was nowhere near where they thought he was going to be.
Breaks rank and says he's in this area or that area, so that they can actually get either Spanish sniffer dogs or the dogs that are there, the cadaver dogs that are there at the minute, to find him. Because they were coming. I mean, when I was there, these people hadn't been eating, they haven't been sleeping, they look exhausted. Their hopes are, every day it's a roller coaster where their hopes are built up. This is going to happen today, and then it doesn't happen. But we're going to get information on this today, and then it doesn't happen. And this has been going on and on and on for such a long time that you would fear for their health, even in terms of their mental health and their physical health, if they don't get some answers soon. I mean, when I spoke to Billy this morning, and just to get an update on what has happened, and he sounds beaten, but he just says, I just want to bring him home and bury him. Like, I don't even care about police and investigations and who did it and who didn't do it anymore. Just want to find him.
And of course, the problem with that area is Alicante there on the Costa Blanca, and the amount of criminality that is embedded there for a long time. There have been people that have gone missing there before, criminals, and because of the criminal, some of them never been found. John McKeown comes to mind, known as the Mexican. He went missing out there, but a very famous case when the Westies, they were a Blanchardstown young crew from Dublin, Bernard Verb Sugg, and he was shot dead, and his brother Stephen Sugg, who was 27, and Shane Coates, his business partner, went out to Alicante to sort of set themselves up. They went missing, and their bodies were found years later, from memory, in a concrete grave in some sort of a warehousing unit on the outskirts of Alicante. And the kind of the process of disappearing them.
God, the more I think about it, I think of these bodies hidden all over Alicante. It's terrifying, really. But, not only in Alicante or not only in Spain, people go missing and you don't know what it's quite scary, isn't it, to think how many bodies will be either buried somewhere or hidden somewhere. You know, all these people that go missing every year all over the place, not just in Spain, but everywhere. You know, where are they? You know, and if so, this is what makes, like, this particular case, they're not really that professional, are they? If they're left, you know, I think they've just like lost the plot, or maybe been so high they didn't know what they were doing. They've not been very good about it, let's put it that way. As that lady was saying, if it was professional sort of gangsters, if you like, or even the Russian mafia or whatever mafia, I think they would have made a better job of the whole thing, wouldn't they? But this has been, you know, they're sort of covering it up by all blaming each other, but really it hasn't been very well hidden, any of it, has it? You know, it's just been, you know, they're not very good at what they do, are they?
Them like that, was being linked to associates of the John Gilligan mob that had been out there. Serious criminals who've been involved in criminality for decades, who know the geography of the area, who know the place, and who are willing for a wage to do and help anybody in situations, you know, where something chaotic has gone off.
Yeah, and I mean, that's it. Could he have been put in the water? Could he be? There's big, deep stone wells everywhere. There's loads of waste ground, loads of scruff ground. There's mountains and there's mountainous areas which are, you know, so rural that no one would ever find a body. And, you know, the family, while they were there, because there's the T-shirts on and they're so visible, people were stopping them. Or even when they're going in, you know, to a cafe to get a bottle of water, they were saying, oh, there's such and such went missing here years ago, and his family come once a year and hold a vigil for him, but his body was never found. One woman who they met, a girl from the south, started crying and saying, look, I've been saying this on social media, but I can't even speak to you because my brother was missing and they could only identify him by his tattoos because he was dismembered in this area. And she says, I can't even speak to you because I'm so upset because it's bringing it all back and it's bringing the trauma. As you said, you can see looking around there, that's a really good area if you want to disappear. So say you wanted to disappear yourself in terms of you're wanted for stuff and you want to go over there, you get a new identity. Everyone comes from somewhere else anyway. So as long as you're not doing what these boys were doing and drawing attention to yourself, no one's going to bat an eyelid and you could very easily disappear. But also if you wanted to disappear a person, there are so many places and opportunities to take someone and put their body. And I think that's now the George families, you know, their biggest fear is that are we going to be one of those families that's going to land here once a year and hold a vigil and we're never going to get him back? Because
yeah, so just a reminder, this podcast was made before John was found. So luckily, his family don't have to face that. They have found John. They will be taking him home.
That is causing them really, really deep distress. And they're actually being helped by Joanne Dorian, who is the ambassador for K9 Search and Rescue and also for Missing People UK. And she is the sister of Lisa Dorian, who was murdered, missing from a caravan park in Ballyhalbert nearly 20 years ago, and her body's never been found, you know. And Joanne dedicates her life to trying to help other people and never asked for any thanks for it or any credit for it. And I kept, you know, at the very start when I was speaking to the family, I said, talk to Joanne Dorian, because if anyone understands what you're going through, it's her, and, you know, she'll be able to help and advise you. And she has been really doing all that in her usual sort of quiet behind the scenes manner. But you can see that, you know, as time goes on, they get more and more desperate because, as you said, key evidence was lost in those early days when it was just treated as, you know, for God's sake, it's just another boy, you know, went on the lash in Spain, he could be anywhere. And then as it turned into a criminal investigation, then as it turned into a murder investigation.
Well, Alison Morris, thank you very much for that update. And I've no doubt we're going to become...
So I hope you found that interesting. I thought it was a very interesting podcast. It was interesting to get an insight on, you know, because that lady had actually been over and been with the family. So it was interesting to get an insight into what had actually happened, what the family actually thought. So, yeah, John will be going home with his family, not in the way that they would have wanted, but at least it's better than, you know, never finding him. So I hope you found this video interesting. Please light a candle for John and for his family, of course. Please light a candle. That's one thing we can all do. We can send out our positive messages. And if you feel like the GoFundMe is pinned at the top of the comments of this video. If you feel like contributing, because we've got the repatriation costs, and then, of course, they're going to want to give him the best send-off that they can. So we can't forget as well his two sons, you know, who now will never see their daddy again, and that must be awful. They'll be just going back to school, or they would have been just going back to school, wouldn't they? And I don't know if they're at school, you know, who knows. You try and give children the most normal life after things like this happen, but it's impossible, because things will never be normal again, will they, for that family? So thank you for caring about John. Thank you for caring about his family. I just want to play this video one more time, because I think the reason that Billy, I get mixed up between Billy and John. I think the reason Billy was sharing this as well on his Facebook, I think this just epitomises John. For all his frailties, he wasn't a perfect guy, like who is, you know, there's some Mr. Perfects out there who like to think their family this could never happen in their family. They must have been some terrible person. He wasn't a terrible person. But he went the wrong way somewhere in life, and unfortunately, so for all of you, as I say, thanks for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Thank you so much. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Please think about subscribing. It's completely free. And don't forget to press the notifications button so you get notifications of new videos. And please also leave your DNA on the like button. And I'll be back really soon for the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Thank you so much.